Hi, everyone. My name is Jackelyn Rivera-Orellana, and I'm a fourth year PhD candidate at Stanford's Graduate School of Education. I'm super excited to get you started with teaching CLAVES. Today, I will focus on some of the strategies, techniques, possibly methods, or things to consider when teaching CLAVES. So let's get started. So, when thinking about teaching claves, these are the things that we'll go over today, or I will go over today. When should I teach claves? Some of the affordances, possible constraints, and which students may benefit from claves. So, let's get started. Again, the hope is you've seen Unit 1 overview, Unit 2 overview, Unit 3 overview, and amongst the other overviews, this is hopefully one of the last videos you're watching in this series because this is here to support you on how to teach and implement claves. So claves was designed to be taught in a small group, as you've heard from the previous scholars in the videos, that it was meant to be taught in a small group. However, through our research, we've learned that there are some affordances, but also possible constraints when teaching in small groups. Some possible affordances where you can specifically target students that may need more comprehension support, that may need more language development support. It also may benefit students with who are multilingual students, may benefit especially. However, possible constraints are that not all of the students in your class get the exposure to the themes as well as like the rich content that's available, as well as it could be difficult to target students outside of the small group specifically that may need these supports. That is what we found through our through anecdotal information. And when thinking about what are the other students doing when I teach a small group, we got this question often when encouraging teachers to teach claves. And oftentimes, what teachers have done, but also we've encouraged, is that the other students could be on computers, playing phonics game, a variety of other things. Students could also be independent reading. Um, of course, this means implementing strong systems and routines so that students are actually independently reading, as well as students are independently writing. These are, again, encouraging you all to implement these strong systems and routines so that you are able to successfully teach a small group while the other students are engaged in independent work. Claves can also be taught whole group. We found that many teachers adjusted the curriculum so it can be taught whole group. Below, I will show you an example of what it looks like to teach Claves whole group. This is an example, but again, you can use Claves how you see fit and how your students can benefit mostly. So, the most frequent way that teachers who taught Claves whole group taught the lessons were in two parts. Often, Claves is broken down into specific parts. Part one, the reading and extended language part, which takes around 10 to 20 minutes. If you want more details on this lesson, feel free to view the overview of Claves curriculum. That'll give you a more in-depth analysis on the lesson plans. Then you teach the reading and extended language part one day, then you will teach the extended language work another day or a second half of the day, each taking around 10 to 20 minutes, again, depending on your students, depending on how in depth you go into these lessons. But the goal is you're breaking down each lesson plan depending on what your students need. But also, if you're teaching this whole group, it would also be helpful to put students into smaller groups so that students can engage in discussions within those smaller groups. We've seen teachers do that. We found that the students were able to engage in these bigger discussions. Teaching Claves whole group, again, some affordances, the students can learn about these social justice oriented themes across the class instead of just specific students. And then all students get exposure to the extended language games that we have found that students have found exciting, as well as teachers. But we've also learned through anecdotal data, but also through observations where possible constraints could mean that in whole group, engaging in rich discussions can be a bit difficult. Some of the things that we encourage and we've seen teachers conduct their classrooms in a way that allows for a discussion within these smaller groups. As mentioned previously, students could be positioned in smaller groups, tables could be positioned into smaller tables so they can engage in discussions. That is a possibility. Also, other possible constraints of teaching Claves whole group could be it's difficult to target specific students, as well as leading extended language games. The games can get a little bit tricky leading it whole group because it can be hard to monitor students and how they're doing. These could be also games that students can, get an at bat during whole group instruction, and if you choose to teach it during small group, they could get a second at bat playing these extended language games. Then dependent decoders may find this curriculum challenging. If you're teaching a whole group and you're encouraging students to read it independently, then students who are dependent decoders may find this curriculum a bit difficult. Also, Claves may be taught during a variety of blocks throughout your day. It could be taught during literacy small group instruction, possibly during English language art blocks, social studies block, you name it. It could be taught during specials block, English language development block. This is more specifically to California, as well as anytime you see fit. How do I select students in Claves? There could be a variety of measures, a variety of ways, but first we do want to encourage you to use your teacher gut and your educator gut, where you're observing students based off of how they're interacting with books, how they're interacting with language. A variety of these anecdotal data points could help support you in identifying students who may need extra support in language development, but may also need extra support in reading comprehension as well. So, typical students who may benefit from CLAVES, if you're thinking about the LPAC, which is the California language assessment given to students who are bureaucratically labeled as English learners. Don't like to use that term, but we use multilingual students, right? Highlighting their assets. So when students take this assessment, they're given a level based off of how they performed at this assessment. And we believe the ELD standard, or the English language development standard level, where students benefit the most, is level 2, 3, and 4. Again, these are just measures, but we do want to encourage you to use your data, use your observations of what students need support with, and how you can support students. So we really want to encourage you to rely on who you think will benefit from this curriculum. Then here are some other ways that you could select students. According to the WIDA consortium, they've leveled off students on English language proficiency. We've made sort of an area that students could select, or where students are placed in could benefit from the CLAVES curriculum. So students aren't developing, expanding, bridging, or reaching in their English language proficiency. They could benefit the most. Students that are entering or at beginning levels of language proficiency may find this curriculum a bit difficult. We present these visuals only as a way to anchor you or guide you in a way that could be helpful. These are just measures that we see could be helpful, but again, we want to encourage you to trust your teacher gut and your educator gut to see how students are doing and what students could benefit. And then lastly, how do I select the CLAVES group? Again, you can pause and read through this, but oftentimes selecting groups depends on if students are fluent readers or not, if students need that extra language support. Oftentimes, if the texts are a bit difficult for students, we have found that teachers have read the text out loud that can support students' comprehension. There are a variety of ways. These are just some ways on how to teach claves and how to prepare you to teach claves. Overall, we really hope you have enjoyed your the curriculum review, and we really hoped you've enjoyed the breakdown of each unit and the overview of each unit. Colleagues and myself have worked really hard to prepare these resources for you, and we hope you're able to use them and students are able to benefit from them. So thank you so much. Again, my name is Jackelyn Rivera. I hope to encourage you to support students in their language proficiency. Have a great day. Bye.